welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to redo sort of the video that I did a couple of years ago about enhancing the performance. And this time I'm going to make it as short as I can. Basically, there are 4 key elements that you need to watch out for when you're trying to optimize. Basically, you got to first of all test your video card driver. I've done that in the past video where there is this thing you can write which is called you can Google it. It's called taxi cab. You're in WoW. You basically fly from one point to another with the flight path. In my previous video, I did it from Stormwind to Ironforge. And then it basically gives you a maximum, average score, and a minimum, and basically you then test out various driver for your video card. Like you test the newest one, you test like the current one you had before you updated, and then you see, okay, is there an improvement, or is it the same, or did I lose anything, or what happened. So that's a very key factor to testing your driver, that you do that, because obviously when you update the driver, it will say, oh, it improved like this in this game in the driver lock. But you got to remember that WoW is a really old game, so they rarely mention that, you know, oh, this game gained this and this and this. Yeah. So that's one thing. Test your driver each time you install a new one. The next thing is NVIDIA versus AMD. So this is like if you're going to buy like a new graphic card, right? Which one is sort of the best brand for World of Warcraft? Generally speaking, for the past 6 years that I've played, I'm currently not playing anymore. It's always been that NVIDIA had the advantage on World of Warcraft, but I've 9 out of 10 times I've played on a computer where I played WoW, I always played with an AMD card. Even every time I frapped and stuff like that, I played on an AMD card. So I'm not telling you that the Radeon cards don't work with World of Warcraft. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of Radeon cards because you generally get more for the buck, basically. But in terms of like raw performance, NVIDIA tends to be ahead. So that might be something you need to consider when you're buying a new car, when you're buying a new computer, that you want an NVIDIA card. Yeah, so that's that done. Then I'm briefly gonna, because most people that are watching this video is probably not gonna understand, but you can overclock either your graphic card and your CPU. Your CPU is the one that counts for the most in World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is a very old. It's based on a very old engine that tends to not be very good optimized for our new CPUs that we have gotten over the past couple of years. It tends to not be able to use more than 2 cores, and a lot of like computers, a lot of newer processors or CPU, whatever you want to call them, tend to have 4 cores, so it can't really optimize all of that. It might tell you, oh, it's using that and stuff, but it tends to not use more than 2 cores. So the best way to actually optimize World of Warcraft that way is just has to have the base clock on your CPU as high as you can get. Like I received probably about 10 to 15 FPS more from just overclocking my CPU, because yes, it does use the graphic card when you play, obviously, but a lot of it is going through the CPU. So if you have a friend or you can do it yourself, I would definitely recommend that you overclock your CPU. If you have a base clock lower than, let's say, 3.2 gigahertz, then you tend to actually gain. I mean, I overclock mine to 4 gigahertz. A lot of you guys can probably overclock it far beyond that because I have an old computer. But generally, you can overclock your CPU and gain more performance in World of Warcraft specifically, and you can gain quite a lot. Um, the last one I want to talk about is your settings. Basically, this can be the most crucial bit because yes, not if you're looking at this video, obviously you don't have the best computer in the world, so you can't just turn everything on high settings and just run it like a boss and don't care about the FPS. So one thing that you need to watch out for in World of Warcraft is, first of all, you need to think about how much video RAM do you have on your graphic card. If you have more than 1 gig, then you don't have to worry about it. Then you can run at full HD, which is 1920 by 1080. But if you have less than that, you might consider running at a lower resolution. So that's that. That's the only thing you need to worry about, the graphics card, really. Another thing, then the two crucial bits are your multi-sampling and there's actually three things. So your multi-sampling, your anti-aliasing. I can't pronounce that right, but those two things, the higher you turn them up, the more demanding the card, the more you demand out of your card, and the lower FPS you do, the lower FPS you get. Obviously, the game will look a little bit better, like a little bit more smooth, not smooth, but not as like how can I say that? Like textures would be more refined, but generally speaking, you don't notice the textures a lot of the time when you're playing and you're really like intensifying on a match. So sacrificing that for, let's say, you lagging, it's simply not worth it. So those two things you have to watch out for. The third thing is your shadow details. I remember when that was introduced. That was a very, very big thing. Generally speaking, that was a big thing because it tends to fuck up a lot of people's computers. Sorry for swearing, but it puts so high demand on a lot of like computers that wasn't necessary at all. So generally speaking, I would tell you to completely turn the shadow details off because it's so much extra to render that will lower your FPS. So that's all. I'm sorry that I couldn't do it shorter, but if you look at those four things, you optimize each of them, I will guarantee you that you're gonna get a better experience when you play. That's it. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. And yeah, tell me your experience. Did these advices help you? And I guess that's it. See you another time.